Hi, today I'm pretty excited to be doing a review and an unboxing of the Weller WHA900 hot air rework station. Before I get into the review and the unboxing of that station, I'd like to talk about the current station that I recommend and why I recommend it. I recommend the Hakko FR-801. There are a couple of reasons that I recommend this. The first reason I recommend this is that every time I've used a cheaper station, what I realize with the cheaper station is that when you try to remove a chip from a board, you take the hot air, you turn it on, you point it at the chip, you can stay there for 10 minutes. It's not going to come off. I could preheat the board. So I could take the board, I could put it in my oven, I could have it sit in the oven at, let's say, 250, 275 degrees Fahrenheit for half an hour. I could take it right out and I could take the cheap iron and I could put it there, and it's not doing anything. I'm still unable to get anything off of the board. It just won't come off. And then I could take something like the Hakko FR-801. It's not recommended that you work like this, but what I could do with the FR-801 is, with the board being totally cold, I could preheat the area for maybe like 10, 20 seconds, go in really close, and take the chip right off. I'm not damaging the chip. I'm not damaging the board. It's allowing me to do my job in a very, very simple and effective way. So what I like about the FR-801 is that it puts out a really, really powerful stream of hot air in a very, very accurate and narrow path. So if I want to get this chip off, but I don't want to burn and marinate everything around it, I can use this. You're going to notice that a lot of the boards that were worked on by really crappy stations, they're sitting there with that fucking thing for like 10, 20, 30 minutes trying to get something off. And you can see the board looks marinated. The components look marinated and abused by heat. With this thing, again, turn it on, I go zing, shh, and it just comes right off. And the second thing I like about this, in addition to the fact that it's also very powerful, very durable, it lasts long, is the interface. The interface is what makes this king. This has an analog interface. I'm not a big analog fanboy, but I'm a fan of simple controls. So in the practical real world, I'm going to be doing, so let's just grab any random board up here. And let me just show you what I'm talking about. So let's say that I want to work on this board and I want to remove some components from it. So let's just move over to microscope camera here, turn on the light for the microscope camera, and give you a little bit of an idea of what I find valuable in a rework station. So let's say I'm working with my rework station and I'm like replacing some of these little components, like little component, little component, little component. Then I get to over here where I have a bigger component. What you're going to find here with the bigger component is that the bigger component is going to require maybe a little bit more heat or a little bit more air. I'm going to need maybe more air to get that off. So here's what I can do with this iron that I can't do with the new one because of the bullshit digital control system. So let's say I'm working like this, and I'm working and I'm removing. Okay, I get to a bigger component. Look, I can do this without even leaving the microscope, without leaving my field of view, without stopping what I'm doing and stopping heating the component. I can actually adjust and change air and temperature. It's very, very easy to do that on this thing. Now, the newer Hakko, the FR-810 that they came out with, here's why I think the FR-810 is something that I'll never be able to recommend. The reason I can't recommend the Hakko FR-810 is because of the crappy, terrible alarm clock interface. So one of the things I've talked about with the newer stations is they have this alarm clock interface. So let me just show you what that's like on the Hakko that I presently have. So this over here is the Hakko FX951. I highly recommend this station because it is the cheapest that you are going to pay to get a good soldering station. This station, it works with these irons where the temperature sensor is all the way in the tip. It's not like those. This was on, wasn't it? It's not like those old irons where you have the really, really hot heating element and you put the tip on over it. This is one of those irons where it's right in the tip. The sensor is right in the tip. If you touch it to like a ground plane, it's going to send more power to keep the temperature. This is an amazing iron to solder with. It supports a large variety of tips. You can use a lot of these, let's say, I think they're called spatula tips. They look like a spatula, and it makes it rework on all sorts of different items. Very, very simple, and it's all very, very affordable, and it's all high quality. I recommend this station. I like this station. You can see where I talked about the FX951 in my JBC review, but here's what I don't like about it, and here's part of what makes it cheap. Part of what makes it cheap is the alarm clock interface. So what do I mean when I say this is like setting the alarm on a 1980 Sony Dream Machine? Well, see this? This is setting temperature. Now, right now, it's going to go up to the temperature that it's set to, which is 840 degrees. Now, let's take a look at what happens when I try to set the temperature on it. I want it to go down, right? I hold down. Doesn't work. Down. Doesn't work. It doesn't want to set the temperature. So at this point, I have up, down, asterisk, and pound. Now, a lot of people are going to say at this point, why don't you read the manual to figure out how to set the temperature? Well, the reason I don't read the manual to figure out how to set the temperature on these stations is very simple. It's because I have other things to do. Usually, over the course of my day, I'm working on products like this, where this is the manual. This is what I'm reading. This is what I'm trying to debug. This is what I'm trying to figure out. And this is the manual that I want to spend my brain power on. As I've said in other videos, when you're working as a diagnostic technician, you have a very limited amount of time to figure out all this stuff before your brain just starts to kind of float away and you need to take a break. And I want to spend my brain power working on the things that will make me money. I don't want to spend brain power trying to figure out how this thing works. Let's look on this. So when you hit pound, you get this, -10. It doesn't say what -10 is. Now, when you read the manual, you'll see in the confusing, strange language that that is for setting the offset. And if you want to set the temperature, you don't hit this button. You don't hit the asterisk. You have to hold it down. Nowhere is it indicated on this device that holding something down is actually going to do anything. And my instinct that holding it down is not going to do anything is reinforced when I hold down the down button or hold down the up button before and it didn't do anything. So here's how you set the temperature. You do this. And this. And this is something that's really not something that I'm going to be able to do while I'm in a microscope. Again, what helps me is being able to work quickly. What helps me is being able to make adjustments on the fly without having to go through this type of bullshit. Now, what I want you to keep in mind is that with hot air, your parameter is not just temperature. Your parameter is also air. So when you go into that menu on the Hakko FR-810, not only do you have to try to skip past temperature, you also have to skip past air. You have to go through a lot of different things. So if you want to change the air, you have to hit that thing and you have to go through even more menus than you do with this for, you know, the 3 different numbers for temperature. So while somebody may conceivably be able to change the temperature of this on the fly, you're really, really not going to be able to change the temperature of the FR-810 on the fly. I assure you that if you buy a Hakko FR-810, which is the newer incarnation of the station, that you are not going to be able to sit in the microscope. I challenge somebody to do this and actually be able to change that thing on the fly without spending a lot of time getting used to it to change the air or to change the temperature. Now you may ask, if changing temperature and air on the fly is so important, why do you have a Hakko FX951 station? Well, for regular soldering, for standard soldering with an iron, I'm 99% of the time I'm at 750 or 840. I don't change this temperature very often, if ever at all. I don't have a need to. If I'm, you know, again, look at this board. So look at the board that I have in front of me. Even though all the components here are of, you know, even though all these components may be of different sizes, the pads for the most part, I'm going to be able to solder that pad with, you know, like 840 or 750. I'll be able to do that just fine. I don't have to be changing it all the time. If the pad, what I do have to do with this is change the tip. So if I'm soldering on a really, really large pad, it's not the temperature I need to change. The temperature is not what has to change. The tip has to change. And here, changing the tip is very easy. As I showed in that JBC review video, changing the tips on the JBC station is a complete and utter nightmare compared to changing the tips on, let's say, this thing. It's very easy to change the tips on this iron. It's just, you know, quick. So with this, changing tips is important. With this one, I use the same tip on almost everything, but being able to change the hot air temperature and the airflow for larger or smaller components, that's what's important. And that's something that I can really easily do on this. The Hakko FR-810 does not allow me to do that. The second thing I'd like to point out about my setup and why I recommend the Hakko FR-801 so much is because the Hakko FR-801 is a station that is flat. So as you can see, because the station is flat, I'm able to put my FX951 and my FM2027 right over here. I actually use the FM2032 iron very often, but I don't have one of these separate holders for it for 2 reasons. The first is that it's about an extra 60 or 70 bucks. Screw that. And the second is that, you know, where am I going to put it? As you can see, this is not a huge office. This is not the biggest office in the world. I don't have a lot of space here. So I have to make the most of the limited space that I have. And that's something that I feel that Hakko should kind of understand. That whether if you're in a small office, you want to make the most of the space you have. If you're in a big rework facility that has, you know, 600 employees, well, you still want to make the most of the space that you have because you need space to fit your 600 people. And that's important. And the thing that sucks with the FR-810, the thing that really just, it seems just completely non-practical and silly, is that with the Hakko FR-810, what they've done is they've made it not flat. So if I show you a picture here, the Hakko FR-810, so if I go over here and I Google Hakko FR-810, I'm going to find you some pictures of it, and you'll be able to see that it's not flat. It looks cooler than the Hakko FR-801. It definitely looks cooler and more exciting, but it's not flat. You see what they've done over here? They've made a nice little handle for it. So let's see if I can get a higher resolution picture so I can show you the handle. See this? See that? Right over there, this is the area where you can kind of grab it so it has that cool little handle. Because that's what I value in my hot air rework station. I value the ability to be a door-to-door SMC repair person. I value the ability to run little wires under the LED drive. I carry all this around. Didn't you know? I put this thing, I take this and I put it in my purse along with the 951, along with this 50-pound DC power supply, along with the FR-801, along with my computer and my 4K monitor and my Zalmao. I just carry this from house to house to do house call motherboard repair because that's what's valuable to me, not the ability to conserve space in my workplace and stack gear. That's not what's valuable to me. What's valuable to me is my ability to carry this thing from door to door. Who at Hakko came up with this? Who at Hakko comes up with your design for your, like the physical design of your products or the interface of your products? That person needs to be fucking fired because this here, again, I love the FR-801. This thing is amazing. It has made me lots of money. I have told a lot of people to buy this thing over the last 3 to 5 years. I've suggested this all the time, everywhere, and as arrogant as it may be, I think a lot of the reason that you see all this stuff and a lot of the you said you see people searching for this thing and willing to pay almost retail for it, discontinued when it's used, is because I've been talking about it and raving about it and showing you how amazing it is in these videos over the past several years. This is great. I love the Hakko FR-801. Whoever at Hakko is responsible for the FR-801, thank you for existing. Thank you for being born. It's a great device. But then you go over to this thing and I'm like, who the fuck made this up, really? Who decided to take away my ability to put another tool on top of the FR-801? This really doesn't make sense. Again, if you go back to the video I did on the FM206, you go back to the review video of the FM206 that I did, I showed you that Hakko's attempt at a multi-tool is a failure because the hot air pencil that comes with that station is so underpowered, it cannot do shit. So now you've taken away my ability to buy a multi-station because the FM206 is a piece of crap, and I don't want to stretch things here, but I'm pretty sure that Jessa Jones at iPad Rehab would agree with me. I don't like to speak for other people, but I'm 95% certain that she would agree with me and not suggesting that you buy an FM206. That is probably not the best idea from her experience with it. And in my experience, I can't work with that thing. I can't do anything. Components won't show. They won't come off the board unless I sit there for like 10 or 15 minutes just heating, and that's just not something I feel like doing. So the multi-station is worthless. Then, when I try to buy discrete components, you've taken away my ability to stack them. So you don't want to give me a good multi-station, and you don't want to allow me to stack your discrete components. So you're really taking away my ability to have a workbench that's not a mess. And that's something that I kind of resent. So because the Hakko FR-810 won't fit on my workbench, because you've taken away my ability to have a nice, neat little nice, concise, neat little setup where I don't have everything spread across my desk. Again, my hot air, my soldering, my micro soldering, my standard soldering, this little Brillo pad looking brass shit here, all of that is in this nice little space. I don't want to get rid of that just because they don't know how to make a fucking interface or how to put the thing together so that it makes any sense. So what I'd like to do today is I'm going to show you the follow-up product, which is the Weller WHA900. Now this is a hot air station that's flat. It has the analog controls that I like. So let's just look at this for a second on the computer. Weller WHA900. It's something that I'm pretty excited about. So as you can see here, the top of this station is perfectly flat. I like that it's flat because I'll be able to put my other stuff on top of it. Hopefully my other stuff will fit on top of it. And also, as you can see here, it has those analog controls. And again, I'm not an analog versus digital fanboy. I'm not a fanboy of one or the other. I just want an ability. I want the ability to be able to change my temperature quickly. That's what I want. I don't care if it's analog. I don't care if it's digital. I don't care if a flying monkey controls it. If I can tell the flying monkey, hey, I need more air, and he does it, I'm happy to deal with that. And let's get on to opening this thing and seeing what it's all about. So now, for the last, I would say since 7 years, I always manage to lose my box cutter. So what I do to open these boxes is I use my keys. And that is a trend that I will be continuing today. So what I'd like to do is thank Diane Miller from Weller for talking to me over the phone. She was very, very pleasant, very nice woman, very, very easy to speak to, and we had a lot to say about fume extraction, a lot to say about the tools that they offer, what would be best for me. That's the other thing about Weller. Very similar to JBC, they'll actually talk to you for a decent amount of time about the tool, about what it is you do, what it is you need, and you get some personalized attention there. I just want to say thank you for setting up. This is a demo, so this is not a free product. This is a demo that I have not paid for yet, but will be expected to pay for if I want to keep the product. Again, no free shit for me. So here's the box, and here is my least favorite thing in the world, packing peanuts. Okay, so boo, I hate packing peanuts. I appreciate the effort that was put in to make sure this arrives in one piece, but fuck packing peanuts, man. All right, so we get this little box over here. NA10 adapter, F.Rep a chip. Okay. Comes with a nice sturdy IEC power cable here. Whoa. Okay, I gotta zoom in on this and show you. So this is what I got sent. Look at the tip collection. Let me just turn face detection off here. Whoa. Okay. Look at the nozzles. Look at the nozzle selection here is really something else. Unfortunately, you'll never tell because the camera's autofocus is not focused on this. Okay, let's turn off autofocus here so I can figure out how to focus on the nozzle. There we go. So I just have to keep my hand right over here if I want this to be in focus. So let's go through all the nozzles that I got sent here because nozzles are important. So I got this one. This one. This one. This bent one here. This one. I have no idea what this thing's even for. So I'm pretty sure that's not a nozzle, but I'll figure out. You get this one. This thing. This dual nozzle. You get this. 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 And then there are a bunch of nozzles in bags. I mean, this is another bent one. The bent nozzles are really useful. See, this one is bent. This is not bent because it came bent. This is bent because I've dropped the thing on the floor so many times. But it's actually useful when the nozzle gets bent because you see how I'm working under the microscope with, I don't have a working distance where I can do this. I need to work like that. So if the nozzle's bent, it makes it a lot easier to work. I mean, you get the point here. There's more nozzles in this bag than I think I'm going to be trying. I'm not going to be trying out all the nozzles. I'm really just going to be using the ones that I find to be the best to work with. The one that I find to be the best to work with is somewhere around 4 millimeters. So I'm going to look for a round, standard 4 millimeter nozzle. I just figured I'd show you some of the nozzle porn. This comes with a lot of options. That is cool. So that's cool that I got all these options here. Not sure if it looks like I almost just broke one of them. Okay. What's in this little box here? NA10 adapter. This looks like something that you tase people with. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what this is. What is it, like you branding somebody? Like what the okay. This box is probably for the people who are IPC certified. This is Exolite, some Exolite screwdriver, wrench or something. All right, so let's continue this. What's next? Oh, this is the game I hate, which is keep as few packing pellets from coming out as possible, but who am I kidding? I suck at that game. I hate packing pellets. I like Weller products, but I hate packing pellets. Like, not intensely dislike. I had this boss a long time ago. He used to say, Louis, you don't hate anything. You intentionally dislike it. You don't hate anything. Because the idea is you don't want to have negative energy that you're putting out into the world. You never want to be a negative person. Because even when he was really, really mad and something really, really bothered him, he could reset himself like a quarter of a second later into being a positive human being. You really could not take the smile off this dude's face. And that was something that he kind of, ironically, was, he was such a hustler and like and there are some not nice words I could use to describe a lot of the stuff that he did. But ultimately, he taught me, one of the things I learned from him is the value of positivity. Let's see, his name was Sam Fields. In some ways, like a nice guy. In some ways. Okay. You don't hate anything. You intentionally dislike it. It's a combination of a Texas accent and missing a lot of his teeth from being really, really old. Very tightly bubble wrapped. That's it. They did a good job of bubble wrapping this thing. Like a really good job of bubble wrapping this thing. Okay, this is the Weller WHA900. It looks like this is mirrored. This is on the opposite side in the. This is on the opposite side in the picture. Aww. I can't put my paper towel there anymore. Oh, well. I could always probably remount it. Let's see. Yeah, in the picture, that thing's on this side. That looks like it would take virtually no effort to remount. That's something that I'll do later. So, this is the Weller WHA900 hot air station. So let's just zoom in and get a nice little look at what this thing looks like. Let's turn off the face detection on the camera so that we can actually have a fighting chance of getting real focus. So as you can see, it's temperature in Fahrenheit times 100. So when you set this thing to 3 over here, you're at 300 Fahrenheit. When you set to 600 Fahrenheit, 800, 9, and 10. So 0, and then actually it doesn't go to 10, as you can see. It goes to 9.5. You can't scroll all the way to 10, which is actually a good thing. I mean, what the fuck do you think you're doing with 1,000 degrees? And then the same thing with the air. The knobs are very easy to turn. The thing with the Hakko, it's a little different than the Hakko. So with this, you have 1 through 10. With the Hakko, this knob is a knob that keeps turning and turning and turning and turning. So let's also take a look at specification here. Let's see what this is spec'd to be able to do. Because I want to get an idea of what the hell this means for the air from 1 through 10. I want to figure out what that means in relation to my Hakko station. So when I say spec for air, what do I mean? Well, this is something that I just recently learned, is that air is actually measured on these hot air stations as to what they can provide in liters per minute. So if we were to take a look at my FR-801 here, you can see that it says liters per minute. So see, liters a minute, and it goes from 0 all the way to 25. So when I turn the unit on, see, this is all the way down, And then this knob continuously turns. Let me just zoom out a little just so you can see the knob turning. So this is a knob that continuously turns. It's not like it turns from here to there and you're done. See, you can turn it and turn it and turn it, and you keep turning it to get the ball to go up. So I know that this station goes from 0 liters a minute to 25 liters a minute, and that's the measure of the airflow. So if I do this, let me just turn it back where it was so nothing falls. Every time I move something around to get it in focus for camera, I end up knocking something over. So this is 10 liters a minute. Let me put this near my mic. That's 25. Hear the difference? So 0, well, not 0, but close to 0, like 3 or 4. And then 25. Let's turn it off. So what I want to do over here now is I want to figure out how many liters per minute this is able to do, just so I can know what setting on the Weller is equal to what setting on the Hakko. Weller WHA900. Let's see what this is able to do. So let's see what Weller's manual says for this iron. So Weller's manual says that this goes between 5 to 50 liters a minute. So this actually has the ability to go twice the airflow as my Hakko. So this can go up to 50 liters a minute. So let's just get an idea of how this works. So that goes from 0 to 25. This goes from 1 to 10. So when this one is at 5, says this, keep in mind, this is capable of twice the liters per minute as my Hakko is. So when this is at 5, that means that I'm at where my Hakko would be, assuming that this is a linear scale. So when I have this at 5, that means I'm at the max that I would be at on my Hakko. So now I usually do soldering on my Hakko at 15 liters a minute, so I'd say that that's probably somewhere around 3 to 4 on this station, maybe somewhere around here. And anywhere I go after 5, if this is a linear scale, anywhere I go on this thing after 5, I'm going to be right above where I would be on my Hakko in terms of power. So let's go back to plugging this thing in and checking out how it works. Alrighty, so let's just get a better view of the desk. It's a little messy as I unbox things. Alright, so let's plug this thing in and do some soldering. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to compare how this thing works to how the other one works. I'd like to compare this to this. I think it's a fair way to get started. So again, one of the problems I have with other soldering stations, the biggest problem I have with other soldering stations is that, again, when I just go to remove a chip from a board, chip just don't want to come off, or the connector doesn't want to come off. So we're going to see how that works here. So let's see. So to get the tip on, you slide the tip on like this. So I might as well get a little bit of an instruction here. So let's just get the face detection off and do the zoom again. So this is the... I need manual focus. Manual focus. There we go. All right, so the way this is going to work. There we are. Is you're going to take the tip, and you're going to put the tip on like this. Now, you take that little tool, this thing, and you do this. I'm guessing. Yes, nice and intuitive, and you screw. And now it's stuck in. So let's try to find one that's similar to what I use in the FR-801. That's a little too big. So this is how you're going to get the tip. So it's not... This thing obviously doesn't have any type of quick changeable tip. But here I don't care, because I use the 4mm one almost exclusively without using anything else ever. So let's see where they have a 4mm nozzle. The nozzle, this is all, I think this is in German. Yeah. Let's find 4mm here. Something that looks like what I'm already using. So I'm just going to put all the nozzles that it's not on the table. Okay, so let's see. Is this it? Those look the same to me. So we're going to put this one on. I'm going to work with this one. If I have any grievances with that specific nozzle, then I'll just go back and I can always change it later. But I'm pretty sure that nozzle will do me just fine. All right, so I'm going to plug the station in, and we're going to get to comparing it to this one. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of BGA rework. I'll solder a QFN. I'll do all the standard things that I'm usually doing with my regular iron, with my regular hot air station. But I'll do it with the Weller, and we'll see how the Weller compares to the FR-801. So is this going to be something that I'm going to be able to recommend in place of the FR-801, since the FR-801 is not produced anymore? We'll see. The other thing that makes this interesting is that this is priced very similarly to the FR-801. So again, I just did a review of the JBC hot air station. That's a great hot air station. That is an amazing, high quality, beautiful hot air station that costs over $1,700. Yeah, I mean, a big part of this is practical. Like, I'm not a cheapskate. I'm not a complete cheapskate when it comes to gear. I had to correct that and say complete cheapskate because I am. Who are we kidding? I am a cheapskate, but I'm a partial cheapskate. So I like things that work well, but I'm not going to spend a ton of extra money on something for no good reason. And the JBC, man, that is an amazing hot air station. But the problem with that hot air station is that it's $1,700. Now I bought this Hakko for maybe $650, and then I paid a little extra for all the nozzles and little accessories. Maybe I bought it after shipping and everything closer to $750. I spent a pretty penny on that Hakko. But the thing with the Hakko is that it does I know that at one point I paid that much money to get everything that I wanted. So now I kind of have it in my head that I don't really want to spend more than that to get what I want. Putting a fan in my bathroom window so that I can have some more ventilation than what I have right now. All right, let's get started with this tool. So I just plugged it in. Okay, I thought I just plugged it in. Plug this thing in. Okay, so you have this little button up front here. This little on-off, well, it's a switch. When you turn it on, you get a little light. You get the light, you hit start, stop, and you can hear it. I think this is actually digital. It's controlled by the knob, I think, but it may actually be digitally controlled because there's a delay. So when I turn it up, it takes a second for the air to go up. With the Hakko, it doesn't take a second for the air to go up. It's just, like, there's no delay because I feel like this is directly attached to it. So let's get this thing going. So let's set it to, let's say, 8. And remember, the air that I usually use is probably somewhere around 3 or 5. And let's do some soldering. Let's have some fun. So let's get some devices that we can replace chips on. Again, I'm not going to do some, talking back and forth and saying, oh, look at this, oh, look at that, oh, look. No, I want to show you what the device can actually do in the real world. That's what's going to be interesting to you because that's what it is you're going to be doing with these. You're going to be using this to replace real chips on the boards like the ones that I'm working on. So what's the point of watching me do something else? So let's get to work. Let's turn the fume extractor on here. Let's get the microscope camera in view. So let's remove, let's say this is a donor board. Obviously, this is a board that is never going to work again. So let's remove this. Let's see how this thing can do. Now this is one. So one of the other things to note about this is that the tube is actually plugged into the back of it. The tube for the hot air and the heat. On the Hakko, it's plugged into the front. It also has a little bit of a textured grip. So this thing's grip is kind of it kind of bulges and then gets to a thinner point. It's almost I really am trying to come up with an analogy better than a circumcised penis, but I can't. Whereas this one is really just kind of straight all the way through. So it takes a little getting used to. So let's see. Let's just turn my air up a little, my heat up a little. I'm not quite sure what to be used to with this because I've never used it before. So as you can see, this is a really burned, nasty looking board. The solder is kind of starting to melt. I mean, it should be melted because I'm actually able to, as you can see here, move the components around. See that? So I should just go in and pick up my chip. It's kind of burned and etched into the board. Yeah, yikes. Alright, so yeah, that's pretty capable. It's a pretty capable device here. So now I'm just going to, get it ready to be soldered back on. I'm just going to clean up the area a little bit. I've tangled this and showing you guys how it works. Come on, turn on, heat up. Shoo, jumper wire. Get off of my flux container. Look at that non-IPC certified terrible soldering. Look at that non-IPC certified bullshit. You are not a professional. You are not a professional. Alright. We're just going to take that same chip and put it back on. I'm not taking a new chip to put on a board that's dead. Fuck that. Let's see how this thing performs. This is kind of a balls to the wall setting. A lot of heat. By the way, as I said, I didn't preheat this board. It's actually pretty cold in my office right now because it's the middle of winter while I'm doing this review. I don't think it maybe the middle of it's the end of November, so it's not it is at a time where it is cold. So the board is in an office where I felt like I should be wearing this this zip up and down sweater in order to feel comfortable. And in that environment, this was able to remove the chip from a really heavily populated, heavily heatsink, board that has a heatsink pad under the chip, 10-layer PCB, and it really just ripped it off like no one's business. And I'm not matching temperatures on these. I'm not using a thermocouple or any of that crap because, as pretty as it would be to have little graphs of how long it took to get to this temperature, how long did that get to that temperature, as much as that's, if I had infinite resources, yeah, I would waste a lot of time making that, and I'd have employees and staff that did that. Because I know that those types of benchmarks are things that some people care about. I'm really just interested in real-world usage. How does it actually feel? And can I get the job done with it? If I can get the job done with it, then I don't give a shit about any of that. So let's see. I'm working on a fresh board now. So I just took another board of the same type, we're going to turn do the same thing here. So here I have the temperature on 9 out of 10. Here I have the temperature on like 7.5 out of 8. So on both stations, we're almost all the way up. On this one, I had the air turned to 5, which is, I think, 50 liters a minute. Honestly, this thing's 50 liters. Now, 50 on this. This can only go up to 25 liters a minute. So 5 on here should be equal to 25 on here. This thing's 25 liters a minute is a lot more powerful than 5 on here. So here's 5 liters a minute, and I really shouldn't be doing this near my face. Here's the noise level of 5 liters a minute. I mean, not 5. This is this set to 5, which would be 25 liters a minute. This is this thing, 25 liters a minute. It's much louder, and you can feel much more air is being pushed through. So the scales are imperfect on these things. It's not perfect. In fact, this thing's 50 feels very similar to this thing's 25. But either way, they're virtually equally powered stations, I would say. That's my point here. So let's stop this thing for a second. So when I hit stop, this thing turns off instantly. This turns off instantly. It doesn't keep blowing air through, whereas the Hakko keeps blowing air through when you hit stop to cool itself off. So anyway, let's get this thing turned to where it's comfortable. That's again where I'm talking about feel. So this thing has a setting from 1 to 10. 1 to 10 on a station that can do 50 liters a minute. My math tells me that 5 on this station should be 25 liters a minute. But when I have this thing at 5, and then I put this to 25 liters a minute, this is pumping a lot more air, which means that, again, the temperature, the airflow, this is why I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. I just care about how it works. I don't give two shits of a fuck about the specifications and that. I just care, can it do the job I want it to do? None of that matters. If I tell you, I solder at 15 liters a minute, you're going to set your station at 15 liters a minute, and your station at 15 liters a minute is going to be a lot different from mine, which is why you have to just figure out what's comfortable for yourself. Anyway, rant over. Let's try to remove the ISL from here, using the settings I find comfortable. This is another board that's cold. And the reason I'm doing that is I really want to give you an idea of just how powerful these stations are. There's no preheater under the board, and the board itself, if I touch it, was actually cold. Now the ideal thing to do here, if I were working on a board for a customer, is have a preheater, or if you don't have a preheater, what you can do is you can hold the handpiece further away and preheat the area for 1 to 2 minutes, then go in a little closer and preheat some more, then go in a little closer and preheat some more, and you're going to keep doing that until you're at a point where you feel like it's warm, and then you can actually go in and, solder or desolder the chip. So as you can see here, it came off pretty much. They both heated at they both heated up at virtually the same time. I probably took longer with the Weller because I wasn't used to it, but when you saw when I tapped the components in the surrounding area, everything was clearly melted. A little too much solder on the center pad. I always do that. It's because I'm not IPC certified. I'd do that even if I was IPC certified, I'm pretty sure. Okay, push. Beautiful. Zoink. Beep. Catch the little solder ball that ran away. And there we are. Oh yeah, let's try something else. Let's see how the thing can remove and solder an LED driver. So we're going to go to the Weller now. I'm going to turn on the Weller, hit the start button. So I have the temperature at 9, the air at 5. I feel like 5 is going to be a comfortable air setting on this thing. Let's remove the LED driver. This is the Weller removing an LED driver. Comes right off. Nice little LED driver. Now, let's clean the area a little bit. This is not the right tip, but I don't feel like getting up to get the right tip to wick a board that's dead. If I rip a pad, that's totally fine. I actually did a perfect job. Did a really nice little wicking job there. I'm also not going to go nuts cleaning under the chip because, again, the board is dead. Will never work again. But let's solder a new LED driver onto this completely dead, destroyed, fucked motherboard. Okay. Alrighty. Add a little bit of flux. Take my chip. I can't. Yeah, it's actually a habit to care about the orientation of the chip. So I know if I don't this time, I'm not going to care next time, and that'll be for a real customer. So we push it on there. So let's see. So the temperature on this is pretty high. Have the airflow up. I have the air on 6 now, just for kicks. Let's see how this works. So we heat. Remember, what I'm waiting for is for the flux to go away. Once I see that there's only a really small amount of flux outside the chip and there isn't this like puddle everywhere, I'll know that I've heated the board enough and heated the chip enough and the balls enough that I can go in for the kill without it running away. So now I see I only have a really tiny puddle outside the chip. Now I know I can go in close and it won't blow away. See how it just dropped into place? But for me to know that it's soldered, I wiggle back and forth and see how the chip is dancing as I move the iron back and forth? The chip's dancing, which is how I know the center ball is melted, which is how I know I'm good. And see, that was me using the Weller WHA900. Now I'm going to stop on it, turn it off, and I'll try using the Hakko FR-801 on this other one. Okay. Have my temperature here at 7.5, my airflow at 15. By the way, the Weller actually tells you the scale. It tells you that the temp. When you see that the temperature is, if you set it to 6, that means 600 Fahrenheit. The Hakko doesn't actually tell you what any of that means. I remember reading in the manual once that the actual temperature depends on the nozzle that you're using. Okay, so I just removed it. I think this removed it a little faster because I think I have the temperature turned higher on here than on here. Either that or I think I'm just waiting too long with the Weller because I'm not used to it. Who knows? So cleaning. Remember, the LED driver actually does use lead-free balls, and I don't want to combine the leaded with the lead-free, so that's why I'm wicking. I'm actually going to try removing with the Weller again at the balls to the wall setting and see how fast the Weller can remove the chip. Just this for shits and giggles after I'm done with this. Okay, I wicked. I didn't clean. I know, mortal sin, but it's a dead board anyway. I'm just a little curious as to how fast the Weller can remove it if I really set it to a high setting. So might as well turn the thing back on. Let's have the temperature as high as it will go on the Weller. So that thing's heating up right now. While the Weller is heating up, let's put the chip on the board with Hakko. Same idea as before, just wait for the flux to slowly flow away. So I'm far away from the chip right now, but I'm pointing at it. I slowly move in on the chip. See how it went into place? That's how I know it's soldered. Now I'm going to go back and forth to make the chip dance. Dance for me, LED drive. When the chip dances, I know that I've done my job. And it danced. Beautiful. Let's see how fast this Weller will remove it now. So I have the air on 8, which is a fuck ton of air. And I have the temperature turned as high as it'll go. Then I'm going to turn the air down to 7. Because I don't think 8 is really needed here. Let's see. When does this melt? Yeah, so the Weller's... I was just waiting with the Weller too long. The Weller's clearly... they're both very powerful stations. They're both equally able to do the job. Unlike my receptionist. There you go. Anyway, and... Now, a couple of points to consider here on both of these units. This is stackable. Like, I can put stuff on top of this because it's flat. So if I were to unplug this station, because the wires for it are literally just long enough to reach over here, the way I've tied them, if I were to unplug this station, I could totally use this and stack things on it. See? Because it's flat, which makes this a lot more useful to me than the FR-810. The other benefit that this has over the FR-810, in addition to being stackable, is the controls. The thing I love about the Weller WHA900 is that the controls are right here. So if I'm in the microscope and I say, I need more air, I need less air, I need more heat, I need less heat. And the knobs are really big. These knobs are actually bigger and easier to use, and they have less resistance than the Hakko knob. So the Hakko, I mean, this is a really small thing to go for, but if you're outside the microscope, you could literally have your pinky finger and just tap it a little with your fingernail, and it'll move. As you can see, the knob on my Hakko FR-801 is broken off a long time ago, but I can still adjust it on the fly. So this is a really, really good station, in my opinion. I'm able to remove components with it very easily. It doesn't cause me stress or grief from not being able to do its job. It works, I would say, on par with the FR-801. It works virtually on par with that station. I know you can pick up the phone on less than the third ring. There you go. And yeah, I mean, it allows me to do my job very easily, and it's very similarly priced. So let's go over pricing for the Weller WHA900. So remember what I said when I bought the Hakko FR-801. I paid for the nozzles, I paid for shipping, and then I paid $650 for the station. So let's say somewhere in the 700s is what I wound up paying for that entire setup. So if I look here and I go to buy the Weller WHA900 station, yeah, I mean, it's not the crazy expensive thing in the world. So you go to T Equipment, it's $580 at T Equipment. Then you would still have to buy it with a nozzle. So then let's find a nozzle for it. So under accessories, you're gonna come on, you can do it, Time Warner. So I say I like the 4mm nozzle. So let's see. This nozzle is actually one I pulled out, and it doesn't have a label on it. Great. So anyway, let's see if I can figure out what nozzle I was using. Let's see. Maybe NR05. This looks like what I was using. 4mm. Here we go. So that nozzle is $58.36. So we add it to cart. And if you add that to cart along with the actual iron, the soldering station, you're looking at a total of $638 plus shipping, which is really cheap. Let's see what it is from a vendor that I like. So as I've said before, I'm not really a fan of T Equipment. I like Allspec, because Allspec has just helped me a lot more. If something doesn't work, they take it back, and it doesn't take forever for Allspec to take it back. I remember buying some stuff from T Equipment that didn't work the way it was supposed to. It had been sitting there for over a week, and they ignored my emails, and they never got back to me, and I wound up having to file a chargeback, and I hate having to do that shit. It's just, I don't really feel like, I returned it to you in the original box, original packaging, original everything, and more than a week, no, get the fuck out of here. But here, Allspec has been very, very helpful. They're very responsive on the phone, they're very responsive to emails, and Allspec is there. And the website's great. It tells you if the stuff is available in stock. For example, this says estimated to ship on 11/30. Allspec overall, they usually have more items in stock where they can ship it to you immediately, and they'll tell you if there's going to be a delay. So here, again, estimated to ship on 11/30. They'll say when they have something in stock, and they'll tell you when they don't have it in stock, so you can kind of make an informed decision as to whether or not to use them or somebody else. I like them, so let's just see what it would cost to buy it from here. So $68 for the nozzle, and $660 for the station. 715. So 715 versus 638. Yeah, as much as I have some loyalty to Allspec, I may actually wind up just, yeah, I'm a cheapskate. I'd probably go with T Equipment, even knowing that I'm not really a fan of them. But yeah, look at the pricing, like 638. 56 for this. So you can pay $638.56 and get everything you need. Now let's go over to, let's say, the Hakko FR-810. So again, our prices, look, $751. So if you want to buy it on Amazon, let's see what it costs. Does T Equipment even have? Allspec has the FR-810. Let's see if T Equipment has the FR-810. So T Equipment has it for $750. And but keep in mind, this comes with a nozzle. It comes with one of those nozzles that you need. The Hakko, you have to buy it separately. So for the Hakko, it's $750. For the Weller iron from T Equipment, you're looking at $638. So you save about $111 buying the Weller over the Hakko. Let's see what Allspec has to say. So yeah, Allspec is $697. So if you buy from Allspec, you're actually still looking at spending more money, whether you buy it at T Equipment or Allspec. The Hakko is more money. So let's get this straight. So the Weller is a station where I can stack one on top of the other. The Weller is a station where I have the same nozzle selection pretty much. I can stack one station on top of the other, and I have analog controls. The Hakko is a station where I cannot stack one on top of the other. The new Hakko, the FR-810, I cannot stack one on top of the other. I don't have manual controls. I have the alarm clock interface, which is a nightmare. And it's $100 more? Yeah. The Weller WHA900 is an absolute no-brainer as my suggestion for a hot air for anybody who's working on cell phone or laptop motherboards, anybody who wants to do the type of work that I'm doing. The Weller WHA900 has this thing has my endorsement as a very high quality, very well-built station. And the important thing about this, you may say, well, you like the Hakko FR-801, couldn't I buy one used? When I had to get this thing fixed, when I had a problem with this, I sent it to Hakko. I said, bill me extra to get it fixed as quickly as possible, whatever it's going to be. That's fine. You can email me the quote, but I'll probably I don't even care. Just go ahead with whatever it's going to cost. They said it was going to take over 3 weeks to fix this fucking thing because it's discontinued. So they had to order parts from whatever other country, and it's going to take a while. And we eventually wound up nagging them to send me a demo handpiece. It's obviously used and a little bit nasty and broken, but I remember Steve was talking to them, and he goes, well, it's going to have a little cosmetic issues. And he was, my old handpiece was missing this shit entirely. And Steve is laughing and going, do you want to see what his handpiece, you saw what the handpiece he included in the box looked like, right? Like, it doesn't matter, right? If it shoots hot air, he's fine with it because Steve is the salesman here, and Steve is the one that has to deal with every single customer calling in to ask for status and having nothing to tell them because I didn't have a station. He didn't care if what I got was, it looked like a skeleton. He was fine. But this is still manufactured. The Weller WHA900 is still currently manufactured. It's currently produced. Because it's currently manufactured and currently produced, if you have a problem with this station, it's going to be a lot easier to have this serviced than the Hakko. Again, you can still get the old Hakko stuff serviced. They will service it for you, but it's more difficult and more time-consuming than it is to get something that is in production now serviced. So this is a cheap station comparatively to, let's say, the Hakko FR-810. It's much cheaper than the JBC stuff. Again, for people who go, what's the cheap alternative to what you have? Nothing. You want to see what what JBC costs? Like, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. 2000, 1669. Chrome is freezing, but it's actually fine because over here you could see it. Look at this. $1,700 to $2,000. What you have to realize is that this is the cheap stuff. This is the cheap station. So for anybody who's doing this type of stuff, this I highly recommend it. Again, it looks durable, it feels durable, it arrives well packaged. You have support from real salespeople, from real representatives. Again, I will actually put I'm not sure if she's going to like this or hate this, but I'm going to put Diane Miller, the saleswoman at Weller's, contact information in the annotations and also in the video description so that if you want any of this gear, you can contact them. And I would highly suggest if you're looking for a new hot air rework station that you buy this thing. It feels good in my hand. It works well. It's easy to control. It has all the features that I want in a hot air rework station. I really can't see how anybody can dislike this thing. And it comes from a reputable company. Weller is a reputable company. Again, there are some pieces of Weller gear that I don't like the WR-3000M. I thought that the 3-in-1 station, same complaints with that I have with the Hakko. It's like, 3 versus 1 good. But this thing here, reputable company, great affordable price, great selection of nozzles, available everywhere, easily serviced, company that cares about you, will call and email you with any concerns, and that's that. It's just overall a good product. And again, nobody's paying me to say these things. That's one thing you have to realize. You see all the stuff I say on the internet. Nobody in their right mind is going to give me something for free to review. Nobody in their right mind will give me something for free. Nobody in their right mind would offer me money to say something nice, because they know damn well that, again, I say what I want to say. You saw what I had to say about Baku. You saw what I've had to say about the Hakko all-in-one. You saw what I had, I still tell people what things about iFixit, and look, they bought me a fucking microscope. Again, I say what I think of products. Nobody's paying me to say nice stuff about this. I will say nice things about these products if I actually like them and feel that they're worthwhile. One thing that I forgot to mention about the FR-801 that does drive myself and Jessa nuts is what's called losing your red dot. So when you turn this thing on, there's a little red dot that indicates that it's heating. Now, if you want to turn the airflow down because you don't want to damage a lot of surrounding components, so let's say you want to work on a really localized area, you put the small nozzle on, and you need a certain amount of heat, but you also need the air to be down. When you get that air below 15, what happens with this station is that it will turn itself off. It won't beep or do anything. The red dot will stop, and it'll be working and working, and be like, damn, why is nothing happening? And then you look up at your station, and you see that you've lost your red dot, which means that the station is heating. And that's something that I've encountered, and it usually only happens when you have the heat above, let's say the heat above 6 and the air below 10. But sometimes it will even happen when you have the air around 12 or 13 or 14, which is a lot of hot air, and that's really annoying. So what I did is I worked with this a little bit more just to see what would happen if I had lower air and high heat, and it wasn't turning off. I'm sure this probably has some safety features so that you don't destroy the heating element, but you can work with a low amount of airflow and an amount of heat necessary to desolder small components without getting what's right next to them with this station, and you don't have to worry about losing your red dot. The reason this is really important is when you're working on something like, let's say, a U2 chip in an iPhone 5. So the U2 chip in the iPhone 5 is right next to the CPU. So you really want to get the hot air on that U2 chip. You really don't want to get your hot air on the CPU. And you'll see at Practical Board Repair School, Jessa and Mark came up with some really creative ways of working with this. It's a combination of Kapton tape and using a penny as a heatsink. Because, a penny is made of copper. It's really good at absorbing heat. The Kapton tape is going to keep the heat from getting to the CPU. It's a really, really intelligent, practical way to do these things. And it's just using stuff that's lying around, which is really valuable. And that's one of the things you'll learn. If you go to Practical Board Repair School, you'll get to learn from Jessa Jones and Mark Schaefer how to do a lot of these things. But the cool thing is that with this, I can have the air really low and the heat really high, and I don't have that problem. Which is something I thought I'd mention as an addendum to the review.